Hey guys, this is Holly with Curated Homeschooling, and today I wanted to share the books that we have planned to read this fall. Okay, so I just wanted to share the pile of books that we have set aside for each of our kids for their TBRs. I'm going to go ahead and share the books that they're currently reading first. And this first unit that we're doing is a 4-week unit, and they're already into their books. My littlest guy is 5 years old, and I just read lots of picture books to him. But my 3rd grader is reading A Bear Called Paddington, and he's halfway through that. My 10-year-old daughter is reading the Christian Heroes Then and Now book, Elizabeth Elliot, and my 12-year-old is actually reading the Jim Elliot book at the same time. My older daughter, who's a freshman in high school, is currently reading a Street Smarts Teens book, and my oldest son is reading a book called The Preparation. After we finish our first 4-week unit, we will be diving into a 10-week unit that will be on ancient Greece. And during that unit, I'm going to be having my 7th grader, 5th grader, and 3rd grader read some chapter books together. We usually do this in like a round robin style where each of them read a paragraph. And we're going to be doing this for our language arts time as part of their reading. And so during that 10-week unit, we'll do Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And then after that, we'll do a 6-week unit on Rome, and they're going to be reading The Bronze Bow together and Detectives in Togas together. Each of my children also have their own TBRs. And so I'm going to start with my 3rd grader and go all the way up to my 11th grader's TBRs. So my 3rd grader's TBR looks like 3rd grade detectives, and it's book 1 on one side, and then it's book 2 on the second side, and he's going to read that first. And then he's chosen Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. Then George's Marvelous Medicine by Ronald Dahl. Encyclopedia Brown, which is has short stories and then has the answer at the end. This has been a favorite for all of my kids. Then we'll be reading Stuart Little by E.B. White. Fortunately, the Milk by Neil Gaiman. My 3rd grader really likes the Prince Warrior series as well as the City Spy series, and this seemed to be kind of a mixture of those two things. So I think that this will be something that this will be a series that he enjoys. Next is my 10-year-old's TBR. She has chosen The Moffats. She really wants to read Peter Pan. She also would like to read Swiss Family Robinson, but we've chosen a abridged version of Swiss Family Robinson for now. She'd like to read the actual one, but maybe when she's a little older. She also chose this National Park Mystery series. I think we read the 3rd book in the series a few years ago, and she really enjoyed it. So we're going to start with book 1. She also chose a Frances Hodgkins Burnett book, Little Lord Fauntleroy, as one of her books that she'd really like to read. She would like to read, she has a note in here, My Side of the Mountain, which we can't find the book right now, but if we don't find it, I will just order another copy of it because it's a family favorite. Then she would like to read the book Light and Air by Mindy Nicholas Windle. And then finally, she'd like to read Beneath the Swirling Sky. My 12-year-old also put together his TBR, and one of the books that he would like to read, he's going to read the first part of this book because the first The first half of this book covers ancient Greece and Rome, and then the second half is into the Middle Ages, which is what we'll be learning about in the second half of the school year. So Great Battles for Boys is one of the books he'd like to read. He's already started the Giver Quartet, he's read the first book in the Giver series, and he wants to go ahead and read the rest of the Giver Quartet by Lewis Laurie. So he will read that. And then next he has put Plunged, which is actually an adult book, but it's an adult Christian book, and it kind of mixes like high-level operators like SEAL team. We'll just read the back. When Navy SEAL Jacob Carter is assigned to an experimental mission, he'll protect the crew at all costs. But nothing could have prepared him for the effect of his ship's cloaking device or his disintegration into the spiritual side of our world. Stripped of the finite and plunged into the terrifying existence, can he survive the enemies determined to kill him? Anyway, so my son, who is 12, is very much into like military things as well as science fiction things. And so he had come at the beginning of summer and said, "Hey Mom, can you find me a dystopian science fiction military book?" And so I did some research, and this is what I came across. It is a Christian book. So I think that the themes are going to stay clean, whereas, a lot of adult books I would want to preview before I gave to any of my kids. But anyway, that one. My 12-year-old has also completed the Prince Warrior series multiple times. And is that right? No. Well, he has completed the Prince Warrior series, but that's not what I'm talking about. He has completed what is that called? Ranger's Apprentice series multiple times. Like, he's read those books over and over again, and it's one of his favorite book series. And so he asked this summer if I could try to find a similar series. And so I did some research, and I found The Young Samurai, The Way of the Warrior series by Chris Bradford. And I got this used, and he has started this book already. He's actually reading it right now. And so far he's enjoying it. And he says that as far as he can tell, he's going to want to continue the series after he's done with this book. And then another series that my 12-year-old has really enjoyed in the past is the Brandon Sanderson series called the Reckoner series. He read the entire Reckoner series and really enjoyed it. And so I was trying to find another appropriate series that would be kind of in the same vein as that. And then he also chose Explorer Academy, The Nebulous Secret. My oldest son, when he was around the age of 12, read this whole series and really enjoyed it. And so we have it on the shelf, and my older son had recommended it to my 12-year-old, so he'd like to read that. And then I also have Lee Strobel's A Case for Christ Kids for him to read, as well as he wants to read a book about procrastination. I had each of the kids pick out like a book that was kind of a self-improvement type book. And so he chose to read James Clear's book. What is that? Atomic Habits. Moving on to my freshman, who is 14. She reads a lot. So this isn't probably going to be all of the books that she reads, because she kind of works off of a TBR that she has that's on paper. I generally just purchase the book right before she's actually going to read it, because I'm not quite sure what she's going to be able to get to and not get to. But I do have the books that I'm planning for sure for her to read during this unit. And then she's kind of working off her own list for what she's reading on her own. Okay, so one of the books that we're reading for this the unit that's on Greece is The Thief of Corinth, which is a Christian adult book. Then this is probably a book that would be suitable for elementary, but I'm just going to have her read it with her, along with some of the things she's reading for history, or that she's learning about in history. So this one's Aristotle, Dean of Early Science, and then Archimedes and the Door of Science. I may also borrow these and read them with the younger kids. Then we haven't really covered the Greek myths very in depth. I'm never known exactly how I feel about that as a Christian. I do think that my high schoolers should have a deeper understanding of the Greek myths, and we shouldn't just completely not learn about them at all. So it's not something that I'm comfortable with them like deep diving into. So I decided to go ahead and get the Usborne Complete Greek Myths, and so my daughter can read that. And then the Aeneid, which is a graphic novel of the Aeneid. And then the set of the Iliad and the Odyssey are basically glorified picture books of those of Homer's the Iliad and the Odyssey. And while we're learning about Rome, I have Francine Rivers' A Voice in the Wind for her. She would like to read Little Women at Christmas time this year. And then for growth books, she chose Your New Playlist by John Acuff, which is kind of a mindset book, and then Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. Then getting to my 11th grader, who is 17 this year, he would like to read a book that one of his good friends wrote, that's actually available on Amazon. I'm going to go ahead and put that book up. I can't quite remember the title of it, but one of the characters in this book is based off of another one of my son's friends, and he hasn't read the book yet. And it's a very short book. I think it's like 120 pages long. And I think that the author of this book was 13 or 14-year-old when they wrote the book. Anyway, so he's really interested in reading that book, and so we have that on his TBR. And then we went ahead and put Whale Fall by Daniel Kraus on his book. His favorite, my 11th grader's favorite book that he's read multiple times is Project Hail Mary. I had heard that Whale Fall is for people who liked Project Hail Mary, and it's a little bit science fiction, and I think that he would really like that. As a young boy, he was fairly obsessed with sperm whale and giant squids, so that's why we chose that. And then I have Aristotle for Everybody by Mortimer J. Adler. I've had him read in the past How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler, and before that, in his freshman year, I had him read How to Speak, How to Listen. So he's already read 2 previous books, and so we'll just go ahead and read this one. And then I have Plutarch's Lives. And then I have The Psychology of Money. And then he requested to read something by Ernest Hemingway. He read a bunch last year, and one of his favorite books was Old Man and the Sea. And so he asked if he could read another one. This is a very short book, though. It's called Big Two-Hearted River. It's about fly fishing, which my son loves fly fishing. We live next to a river, and my son fly fishes, and he actually ties flies. And then when we're learning about Rome, I have Ancient Rome, How It Affects Everybody, and that's one of the Uncle Eric books that's kind of about economics. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holland. Sorry, not Holland. Ryan Holiday. I have Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Everyday Battles by Bob Schultz. I really enjoy this series, and I kind of laid out a bunch of books that were by Bob Schultz for him to pick from, and this was the one he thought he'd like to read the most right now. And then at Christmas time, he wants to read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Okay, then to just share our read alouds. These are ones that I'm planning on reading aloud to my 7th grader, 5th grader, 3rd grader, and 5-year-old. So we will read these kind of during the day. The first book that we're going to read is The Hunt for the Kraken. It's part of the Lamplight series, And the second book is out as well, and it's set in Rome at the Colosseum. So I think I might add that as a read aloud for later in the fall. But it is a decide as you go adventure, and so that should be pretty fun for the kids to be able to do. Now, I have several books that I read when my older kids were young and that I have fond memories of reading aloud. So I'm wanting to reread them to my younger kids. And so Farmer Boy is one of those. It was one of my favorite books to read aloud to the kids when they were little. And so we have Farmer Boy. Same thing with Princess and the Goblin is a book that we are wanting to reread for the younger kids. Another book that I don't have in this pile that's on order because I couldn't find the copy of it is My Side of the Mountain. And then at Christmas time, or right around Thanksgiving into Christmas time, I want to read The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street. And then at Christmas time and into January, I want to go ahead and read The Chronicles of Narnia. Probably just The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but we will see if we want to continue reading after that. We've read all of the we've read the whole Narnia series when my oldest kids were little. But I'd like to circle back because I don't think my third grader remembers reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series. I know at least my three oldest kids remember, but I don't know that my three youngest do. All right, and then finally, I have a J.R.R. Tolkien book, Roverandom. I have a series of these small J.R.R. Tolkien books, and my husband loves to read also, and he used to always do read alouds when my oldest kids were little, and so he's going to pick that up and read Roverandom for them. All right, guys, that is what we have planned for my kids' reading TBRs for this fall. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and hit like, and if you would like to continue to follow along what we're doing this fall, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. I'm thinking about potentially putting out a video of the things that I enjoy reading or the things that I'm reading as a homeschool mom, and so that will be an upcoming video as well. You guys have a great day.